In this forecast, powerful thunderstorms are expected over the southern plains in the United States as we have a significant round of damaging winds, large to very large hail, and tornadoes on the way, in addition to some very heavy torrential rainfall that could cause some flash flooding across parts of the United States through the rest of this weekend into the early part of this week. We're going to talk about the middle of June weather pattern change, what that could offer, and looking at the tropics later on in the video. So if you are here, make sure to give it a like, a thumbs up, especially because severe weather is in the forecast. We want as many people to view this video as possible. Give it a like, subscribe to the channel so we have daily weather forecast breakdowns, turn on post notifications so you're notified for future videos and live streams. And of course, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, you can ask them down below in the comment section, and share it with a friend, family, and social people on social media. I definitely appreciate it. Let's look at the moderate risk we have across southern Oklahoma and North Texas. This is a 4 out of 5, actually pretty rare. And this is going to be for wind. We could be seeing potentially some very strong winds, but as those storms start to develop initially, we're going to see a lot of big hail, right? We're going to see those individual thunderstorms. Those could produce baseball, softball size hail, not only for Texas, Oklahoma, but also parts of Kansas there into western Missouri. So we're watching Wichita, Oklahoma City down to Lawton, Wichita Falls down to Dallas, Fort Worth, Amarillo down to Lubbock, and even in portions of the Abilene area could be included. So millions of people included in that baseball to softball size hail threat. And in addition to that, there's going to be some rotation in the atmosphere. So tornadoes will be possible, 5% chance in the Brown, including the Oklahoma City area, Dallas over here towards Amarillo and Wichita Falls. Also a 5% chance of tornadoes over here into eastern Virginia, parts of Maryland near Washington, D.C. And then looking at the wind threat, very significant. This could be a derecho, which is a fast moving line of thunderstorms that produces widespread wind damage and days of power outages possibly. If we see the magnitude of the wind expected, we could be seeing 80 to 100 mile per hour winds across portions of Amarillo, Wichita Falls, Oklahoma City, Lawton, Fort Sill, down to the Dallas Fort Worth area, and that could even extend eastward into Texarkana as well. And what we're seeing is a lot of storm energy. We have 5,000 joules per kilogram of instability. This is extreme levels of storm energy. It doesn't get very high like this very often, and you can see we're going to have some rotation to start at noon here across southern Kansas into the Texas and Oklahoma panhandle. As we go through the afternoon, that rotation is going to start to strengthen along the leading edge of that complex of storms, and so very quick spin-ups of tornadoes are going to be possible. Some are warned, some could be unwarned, so make sure if you see this line of storms approaching from the distance, even if you're outside or you're looking at a weather radar, make sure you do go indoors immediately and stay away from windows, because these dangerous winds and the spin-up tornadoes could be very dangerous in addition to the hail threat. Let's look here at what we're expecting. Here at noon, we see some isolated storm activity. Amarillo, Woodward, Oklahoma, up there toward portions of southern Kansas, just west of Wichita. Supercell thunderstorms could develop between noon and 2 o'clock, and as they do develop, and very explosively, could be already 40 to 60,000 feet tall, and we could be seeing those baseball, softball-sized hailstones that do a lot of damage out there. So make sure your cars are under a carport or even in a garage, and also make sure that you are securing loose lawn items and trampolines and stuff like that as well, gazebos and any loose objects outdoors, because we could be seeing downburst winds of 70 miles an hour and some spin-up tornadoes here as we go deeper into the afternoon. 4 o'clock, notice we're starting to cluster up some of those supercells, and that's the initial stages of a derecho, or basically a family of thunderstorms that develop and produces a very fast-moving line of storms that'll cross through Wichita Falls between about 8-9 o'clock, approaching the western side of the Dallas area at around 9 o'clock, and moves through Dallas at 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock, and that's where we could see 80 to 100 mile per hour winds, also extending up into Ardmore, into southeastern Oklahoma, and maybe Fort Smith, Arkansas. We'll be keeping an eye on that as well. A lot of times these storm systems tend to drop south with time, because once they develop, there's a lot of cold air aloft, and the colder air wants to take advantage of the warmer air, so it actually shifts a little bit further to the south. So Dallas, you're really in kind of that bullseye where the apex of that bow echo is going to be, where we could be seeing up to 100 mile per hour winds. Now let's look at the rainfall, because these are going to be very efficient rainfall producers. It's the air you can wear outdoors. Dew points today are in the 70s, and they're going to be very fast moving storms, don't get me wrong, but they could produce a lot of rainfall in a short amount of time. time on the order of about 2 to 4 inches across the Red River Valley here in southern Oklahoma and North Texas. Now looking here at the east, we have some scattered showers and storms that could become severe with all hazards in play, damaging winds, large hail, and tornadoes. Notice here across Virginia into Maryland, a lot of those storms are going to be popping up during the afternoon and going into the evening hours. Locally heavy downpours are expected as well. Also watching storms down here near the Gulf Coast, areas in southern Mississippi, southern Alabama, and South Georgia that could pose a risk for 60 to 70 mile per hour wind gusts, some quarter to maybe golf ball size hail down here, and the potential of an isolated tornado, although the tornado threat is less than 2% currently across this region. Now let's look here at Monday, June 9th. Slight risk of severe weather across the southeast, going all the way up again into eastern Kentucky and southern West Virginia, and all the way down to the Gulf Coast states. So we're watching for more threats of some damaging winds, hail, and tornadoes on Monday. Here's Monday morning. We got a line of showers and storms from the southern Great Lakes near Lake Erie all the way down here into Mississippi, and the remnants of the potential derecho going to be moving through Jackson, Mississippi around 7 a.m. on Monday. Could be bringing us some pretty hefty 60, 70 mile per hour winds as it is weakening. But then as we go through the day, we're going to be seeing additional storm activity along the cold front that's going to extend from Lake Erie all the way down towards Louisiana and Mississippi. And ahead of that, we could be seeing storm development, and that's when we could be seeing damaging winds, large hail, and a couple of tornadoes, in addition to some locally heavy downpours. Those storms will really intensify as they push through that slight risk area in the southeast. So the Carolinas, Georgia, and Alabama be on high alert as we go through Monday, have multiple ways to receive severe weather watches and warnings. That upper level low that is bringing us all the severe weather on the southern flanks of it as we go into Monday is going to keep us stable up here across the upper Midwest and Great Lakes with cooler air on Monday, and that's going to keep our storm energy levels down to start the week, even going into Tuesday and Wednesday. So as we go through the middle and late portion of next week, we're going to have a weather pattern handoff. As we have a trough in the upper Midwest early in the week, we're going to hand it off to a ridge of high pressure late in the week, and a ridge of high pressure in the east means we're going to warm our temperatures up, stepping them up each day, and we're going to start to introduce a trough across the Pacific Northwest, and that will actually work in tandem with the ridge because it's going to go open over top of the ridge. That's what we call ridge riders, and that is going to open the door to the potential of thunderstorm clusters and severe weather further to the north up across the upper Midwest, Great Lakes, and Ohio Valley in mid to late June. Here's the storm energy we see starting by the middle and late portion of next week starting to build, but it really starts to get high with the storm energy once we get past Father's Day weekend into the 19th, 20th, 21st time frame of June, and that's when we start to introduce those 4,000 to 5,000 joules per kilogram of instability for the upper Midwest, Great Lakes, and Ohio Valley, and that could actually be favorable with a jet stream up here for some long-lived thunderstorm clusters that could eventually become derechos, similar like we have in Oklahoma and Texas today potentially. That could evolve further north as we go into the middle and late portion of June, especially after Father's Day weekend. Almost daily chances or so, every 48 hours or so, for those thunderstorm clusters, and they could also bring some torrential rainfall as well. And it is very highly regarded here on the Euro ensemble models here. You can see a lot of green, a lot of blue here, indicating above normal precipitation going into that third week in June after Father's Day weekend. And you can see the severe weather parameters from the NIU week 2 accumulated supercell composite space. You can see in the red, that is where the severe weather threat is going to be very favorable, with those thunderstorm clusters evolving from the Dakotas into Minnesota through Wisconsin, Iowa, into Illinois, Michigan, and then moving through parts of the northern Ohio Valley in that time frame, and we're going to have to keep a very close eye on it. Let's talk about our temperatures here this afternoon. The heat will be on across Texas, no mistake about it. West Texas here in Midland up to 105. Waco could be into the 99 degree range this afternoon. 106 there in Phoenix, and record highs across portions of Washington and Oregon as we're into the 90s and triple digits this afternoon. Cold front has moved through in the upper Midwest. That means temperatures may struggle to reach the 60s in parts of North Dakota and northern Minnesota this afternoon. Pleasant 70s, though, in the Ohio Valley and the Northeast. Cooler air spreading across Minnesota, Wisconsin, perhaps northern Iowa on Monday. Comfortable 60s out there. Nice to have the windows open. The air will be humming, though, across the Pacific Northwest with those air conditioners, as we're going to be seeing 100-degree heat all the way up there to the U.S.-Canadian border in Washington State. Also seeing triple digits down there in Texas, 90s in Florida, and 107 again in the Phoenix region. And going through the week, that heat out west is going to flex its muscles further to the east, and we're going to see 90s introduced across Nebraska, Iowa, and getting into Illinois once we get to the middle and late portion of next week. So the summertime heat will be on during that time frame. Now let's look here at the National Hurricane Center's tropical weather update for the East Pacific Ocean. 3 separate areas of interest, and actually all of these are moderate to high. Moderate in orange, high chances of development in red. And notice it's going to be an area that is going to have multiple times of potentially seeing tropical storms, maybe even a hurricane. Notice Barbara will be the next name on the list, and that actually could be coming really within the next 24 hours here. And then as we go into the middle of the week, we could see another storm right behind that, and then potentially another storm behind that just after Father's Day weekend. So something we're keeping an eye on in the East Pacific. For right now on the Atlantic side, the National Hurricane Center is not watching really anything over the next 7 days in the Atlantic, the Caribbean, or the Gulf, which is some great news. But if anything breaks out here for breaking news, we'll be the first to keep you covered here across the Atlantic Basin, that is for sure. Thank you all for watching. I definitely do appreciate it. Give it a like down below, a thumbs up. It really does help to get all this vital information to as many people as possible and to keep them out of harm's way. We want everybody to be safe out there, especially with the severe weather. So make sure to give it a like, subscribe to the channel for daily weather forecast breakdowns, turn on your post notification bell so you are notified for future videos and live streams I do here on the channel. And if you want to share it with a friend, family member, and on social media, leave any comments, questions, concerns down below in the comment section. I'll be glad to answer as many questions as possible. Thank you all for watching, and I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their weekend out there.